Hi friends, I decided to do a video series on my aha moments in my journey. And so, before I forget, don't forget to like and subscribe so I can continue to get the word out. Anyway, so my first aha moment was the difference between a sugar burner and a fat burner and how to make myself a fat burner. Okay. So basically, it's kind of, it's self-explanatory. A sugar burner is somebody who burns sugar for energy. A fat burner is somebody who burns fat for energy. And ideally, you want to be a fat burner because then you're using your body fat and then you can stay thin, essentially, or thinner. So that is essentially like increase your metabolism and that sort of a thing. So, okay, well, you kind of have to start off with understanding that there are 3 macronutrients that count in this whole sugar burner, fat burner realm, okay? That is fat, protein, and carbohydrates. And in carbohydrates, I'm including all sugars, so just know that. Okay, so the 2 macronutrients that you actually derive energy from, and energy is what can be stored as fat in your body, are carbohydrate and fat, okay? So protein tends to be used as a building block. So like our bones are 40% protein, just different parts of our body are made of protein. Also fat, like cholesterol, makes up our myelin sheath and other things to that effect. But anyway, that's another topic. So stored as energy. So body fat, for the most part, your main offenders are going to be carbohydrates and fat, okay? Protein, not really something that's going to be stored as fat. Not really something that turns into glucose unless you count gluconeogenesis, which is another tangent and not really what we're getting into today. So basically, a sugar burner is your body running primarily on sugar. And that is a very up and down. It's because essentially what happens is you can only have a certain amount of sugar, and it's not a ton. It's not a lot. It's like 4 or 5 teaspoons or something in your blood, and then you die essentially. Like you go into like a coma and full renal failure and everything, and that's why essentially type 1 diabetics, prior to insulin, the discovery of insulin, would have such a short life expectancy because if they ate sugar, they had nothing to protect themselves. Well, the majority of people have something to protect themselves, and it's called your pancreas. And so what happens is you eat something, and if it's a carbohydrate, your tongue tells your pancreas in seconds, okay, we need X amount of insulin to deal with whatever this person is eating. All right, so for example, if it's something high in sugar or it's carbohydrate or something which is essentially sugar, because like bread, bananas, just straight oatmeal, things like that, they turn into sugar in your mouth. We have an enzyme in our mouths that essentially just turns it into like you're eating a candy bar. So essentially your pancreas is like, oh my God, I have to really pump out the insulin because Miss Thang decided to chew down a whole loaf of bread. All right, well, what happens is then all of that sugar, glucose, it can't go into your blood because you'll be dead. So it goes into your fat cells. And then you kind of don't have a ton of energy because your insulin keeps shoving it away. So it's like as if you were driving your car, but you could only slam on the brakes and slam on the gas. So it's like, so if like you're hyper and then you're feeling like you want to take a nap, that's blood sugar. It's just too much sugar. Go carnivore. Stop eating anything that's carbohydrate or carbohydrate related, and you'll be fine. So then we have fat burners, okay? And essentially what that is if your insulin is not very high, because you're not going to have this huge onslaught of glucose in your blood, and your pancreas isn't going to be just pumping out the insulin like there's no tomorrow and it's trying to save your life, then essentially the energy is very, you still have high energy, but it's very even, and you just sort of have energy, and it's very as if you're just on cruise control in your car. So that's essentially what sugar burner and fat burner is. Now, that being said, you have to become fat adapted in order to be a fat burner, because what happens is your pancreas will preload insulin, and as you can tell, I'm a little fluffy because it's right off the Thanksgiving and Christmas holidays, and I sure did some baking, and yeah, I tasted my wares, even though it was not any of the processed stuff. Didn't buy anything, nothing like that. It was all like the home cooked country stuff. I gained weight. There you go, because my body was just not used to having carbohydrates, and I definitely have the thrifty gene, and it's like, yep, you gotta store that. So I am back at the gym and definitely trying to remove the excess custard pie from my hips at this point. But you know what? We're all human, and I've got kids, and it'd be really difficult to be like, I'm sorry, kids, no sugar this Christmas. So, and you know, there's a bunch of other things, like there are certain parts of my family who don't agree with my views on nutrition, but that's up to them. So anyway, yes, I am 100% a testament to increased insulin due to increased carbohydrates causes weight gain, as you can see. Oh. But anyway, yeah, it also, one thing else that I kind of wanted to touch on is that it's essentially because your pancreas will preload in anticipation of what you've been eating, it takes about 7 days to 2 weeks for your pancreas to basically dump that and get rid of that. At least in my body, that's what I found. It's about like 10 days, 2 weeks in there is about the time frame that my body will stop with the overproduction of the insulin, stop with the weight gain or fat gain, and then I can start losing it, just because, you know, it's the body anticipates it. So, you know, like for example, when I first had sugar, after not having sugar for a very long time, my pancreas was struggling to be like, oh my God, I've got to create this extra insulin to cover up what you did. But then it just be like, oh, well, since she's been doing that, I'm gonna go ahead and have some extra on. So that's why it does seem like, yes, you can gain extra weight, even though it's not like, oh, calorically, I am eating less or about the same, or oh my God, I've been back on carnivore for 2 days and I'm not losing weight, or, you know, or however long it takes. Like I said, for me, 10 days to 2 weeks. But that's after about a year and a half on carnivore. Previous to that, it seemed like it took longer. But yeah, so sugar burner, fat burner, it's your choice. Which one do you want to be?